Hey guys, Chris here at PT120. I put a little vote, a little poll thingy for fun on Facebook, and the public has spoken. The resounding winner was you guys wanted to have a bit of a troubleshooting of the A1, A3, A4 Gresley Pacific chassis, and have a little look-see. Now, a little proviso: I'm not a guru. I am not the font of all knowledge. I'll tell you where you'll find something close to the font of all knowledge, and that is the Hornby, on the Hornby forum, the TT120 section. There's a whole bunch of guys who really know what they're talking about. Sometimes they get a little bit fed up and they don't really want to answer a silly question, and they get a little bit frustrated that people do not look through to look at old answers. But in defense of those new people who come onto the forum, the search engine's not particularly good. And so it's a bit difficult trying to find out why your brand new loco doesn't work. So what we've done is we've wrapped up all the bits of information, I think all the main relevant ones that I think are relevant. This is only my opinion. And we put it into a little video for your perusal. So we are looking at, let's say, number one, the black tape, the dreaded black tape. Number two, the evil spring. Number three, the dodgy wheel spacing. Four, those tricky body details. Five, mech issues or handling. It's kind of, I would say, things of note, not really a mechanical problem or fault. And six, we had a little brief look at the grinding motor and what I did to resolve it, although I have no idea what I did, but I'll show you what I did and it kind of worked. Right, summer's here. I'll let you guys crack on with the video. I'm going to have a little flick through and read some out-of-date information. Cheers. Tape, black insulation tape. That's the first issue, and it's always the one that you first get on YouTube or wherever. So let's deal with that first. For whatever reason, and there's been a number of kind of excuses have been kind of given for it. The front of the front bogie, underneath the front bogie, we have some tape. No one's really quite sure why. There's some reference has been to insulation, but it doesn't make a lot of sense seeing as the bogies aren't a pickup. Right, so we'll do it via, we'll do it on the mallard, because this is straight out of the box and we know mallard's new. I'm just going to move the bogie to one side, and you'll just see that here there is a piece of black tape, and every now and then the wheel catches them, okay, and then sometimes can snag that wheel, causing drag, lifting the rear up of the bogie, which then comes off of the rail and it derails. Okay, so that is the simplest fix, is to go in here with a pair of tweezers and remove the offending piece of black tape. And we shall stick it over here as a warning to others. There you go. Simple. Number one's done. Okay, I'll show you the screw. Well, you'll see the screw later. There's a screw in here that, if I can put a little local light in, there's a screw down in there. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. That tape was covering, so you just see it shining there. It's not doing anything more than, I don't know what it's doing. Okay, right, next job. Okay, next issue on the list, the spring. Okay, and that is the spring located here in there. So to do that, I'm going to, here's what I did earlier. Okay, so this is one of the bogies off of the front of one of my locos. What we've got is a plate that is attached to the loco chassis that applies a certain amount of pressure via a spring between it and this bogie, so that there's a certain amount of pressure applying it, pushing the bogie down onto the track. Okay, now again, I'm not so sure if I can pick it up, but and we'll zoom in on this. Hopefully, it will pick up on it. Again, maybe light, and I shall speak and point with some drawing. Down there, you have a simple flat-headed screw going into a sunken nut. Between those, you have a very mild spring with a small plastic washer. The plastic washer and the spring have to be, as you can see them here in this picture. If for some reason you spot that I don't have my pointy thing. If for some reason you see that that spring is, that washer is missing or has gone through the rather large gap here, then that occasionally will allow the spring to wind its way up through this gap. If it's done that, then the whole mechanism can't apply the amount of pressure that's designed, so it won't actually hold the truck onto the wheels. It may look like it, and on the straight it will work, but it's very important. It's probably the most important thing. So you've done the tape, then you have a look at where this spring is. It's a very, very simple thing to undo this and have a look at your setup in here. Okay, let's undo that better than that. Okay, so you've got a little sunken nut in there. Keep your finger over it. You've got a spring. Okay, and you'll notice it goes fat to thin, and so you have to have this washer in place, because otherwise that thin piece, the cone end, the thinner end, the narrower end of the spring can work its way through there, and then you don't have as much pressure applied to the bogie and onto the track. Okay, if you lose that washer, I believe that you can get them from Hornby or create your own, or yeah, they're a simple enough thing to make up or buy, but I'm pretty sure you can get them from Hornby. The only reason why they wouldn't be there is because they haven't been put together properly in the factory. Okay, which is why some people send them back as a warranty item. But as you can see from what on there, it's a simple enough fix. Okay, the other thing you need to look out for is making sure that this bolt is fixed together properly, because some of these have come loose and then they've disappeared off into the track. Again, it shouldn't be an issue getting them from Hornby, but having a little maintenance schedule, keeping an eye on your loco bolts, really should be something that most rail models should get used to doing, particularly on detailed little locos such as these. Right, so that's number 2 on the list. Next issue, axle spacing, wheel spacing. Okay, now you'll find on most of the large running wheels on these locos, they are around about the they range between 10.3 and 10.45. Okay, which is the kind of spacing which works perfectly for Pico and for Hornby. Okay, 10.3 I think works perfectly fine for Hornby. You want them a little bit further apart for the Pico. Now, I've not yet found a truck that is of that kind of spacing. They're pretty much always, as you can see here, 10.2, give it or 10.18, 10.2. Some of them are even less than that. Right, hopefully this shows you how much a bogie that's at 10.1 or 10.2 can be out. It really can move quite a considerable amount left and right. Now they will hit and ride over the guides on the points and will derail your loco. So the easiest way of sorting those out is to get yourself, what I found is a set of pliers that have been slightly reworked so that they are now reading 10 point, okay, I've got them 10.3, 10.43, okay. I think the ideal goal is 10.45, and then go into here. Now you don't even have to take them apart. All you need to do is just very gently do that, okay. And now when we put this on, and we measure between those bogies, it's a little bit wide, 10.5, so I'm just gonna squeeze them together a little bit. 10.3 will do me. And the other side, currently 10.18, and I'm going to go in there again with a pair of pliers, just space them out like that. Okay, very gentle, very gentle. Right, and 10.3, 3/4. Now I can actually just pull them apart gently as well with my verniers. There you go. Might try that with this one as well. So get in there with the verniers and very gently ease them apart. Just operating these verniers just with my thumb like that. That's how easy it is to ease them apart. Okay, and then now they're back on the track. Now it's back on the track. There you go. You'll find that although they have movement, they're not as bad, but they're 0.2 of a millimeter better. Right, okay, they should have no problems going over a set of points now, and they should have no problems. It's areas where a straight meets a curve, or if you've got an incline and then you meet a curve or a set of points, they can cause you problems. But if you get your wheels set correctly, you should have no problems at all. Now, yes, I know this kind of variation really shouldn't be that much of a problem, but it seems to be a problem with the floating lightweight front bogie on this particular chassis. Hopefully Hornby will sort this out later. Okay. Next thing, and possibly another easy fix, is body details. Okay. Now what I mean by body details is you won't have this issue with the blink bonnie or with the Flying Scotsman, because I put the blink bonnie carefully on her side. Is it blink? No, it's Flying Scotsman. Put the Flying Scotsman carefully on its side. You'll see there's no particular body detail here, so that these bogies can move quite freely in this space. Pick it up again. That is, I'm always picking it up by the cab, not by the wheels. Now, when this bogie turns, it's not striking any of the bodywork. Okay, it's not touching anything there. Now, some of this front, you will find, if you want to put the pipes on, or the vac pipes, you've got to be very careful that you're not actually going to get in the way of this bogie, because the pipes and all the pretty detail they put on for photographing can give you an issue. Absolutely fine if you've got an absolutely dead straight circuit with maybe some radius 6s, but anything underneath that, you're going to have an issue. Right, so it's all about having clear detail. Now, not, as I said, not an issue on the A1s, but it is an issue on the A3s. Why? Because they have this set of steps here. Right, now, these set of steps, I had them on this particular model. I've had them swept back, and I shall put a drawing on here. So I've had them swept all the way back. I've also had them completely vertical. They shouldn't be vertical. The steps should be horizontal, which means you should have a sweep coming out, flaring out at the bottom. And if anything, they should be square or pushing forward a little bit. If they're hung back or they're pushed in, this is a fix that Hornby will do, so you can send it back, or you can do what other people do, which is warm them up and move them, or snap them off and glue them back in. But these are all things that you've got to decide yourself whether you fancy doing. Okay, some of them have been absolutely perfect. Some of them have been applied atrociously. They're all over the place with loads of glue. So I've got a feeling that there's some people at the factory who are really paying attention to what they're doing, and some people at the factory who aren't. Simple as that. The A4. Now the A4, the mallard is probably the worst out of all of them. The mallard, unfortunately, does have this bodywork here. Okay, now absolutely, I've had no problems with running the mallard on on radius 4 and radius 3. I've struggled a little bit with 2. You've got to back her off, slow her down, pay attention to what you're doing, keep an eye on what's happening, which is a bit of a shame. The other A4s, of which I don't have an example here, they're all at Richard at This Way Works, getting juiced up. They have this panel that was removed February 1942 and onwards to help with servicing. So they have this panel removed, which again makes this front wheel easier to move around. So I found with the later A4s, the A3 and the A1, I can actually go around radius 1. Once you've got everything absolutely perfectly set up, radius 1 isn't an issue. Mallard with these panels is restricted down to, I think, well, even sometimes struggles a bit on radius 2. Again, what kind of speed you're pulling and how well your track is laid are also factors to consider. Right, that should cover the bogies. Next, mech issues. Are the issues? Well, I think maybe they should just be maybe classed as maintenance and careful handling. Now, what are the problems? Well, one of the problems is some of these things have come apart and they've lost their screws. Well, then what you need to do is familiarize yourself with the instructions and also how all these screws come in and out, so you can keep them nice and tidy and nice and tight. Something else that you need to consider when you come to the maintenance is, and here's the maintenance instructions. Okay, they're really quite simple to follow. To gain access to the main loco and to remove the bogie, they're all in figure 6 here. Now, to get to figure 7 to do that removal of the motor, what you need to do there is, on the A4s specifically, you need one of these, a conrod spanner, and here's the picture of it. What that conrod spanner is for is so that you can get access to or remove this connecting rod. Let me show you a close-up photo. Okay, so this connecting rod here, for that to be, you need to remove that because that piece here at this end is actually attached to the bodywork of the A4s. So you need to remove that. But the conrod spanner is also really quite useful. That you can just put your thumb on there and gently make sure that your bolts are nice and tidy. Now, one of the issues you've got to pay attention to when you're doing this, though, is this conrod or this bolt here that screws in, or this nut that screws into this bar that's fitted onto the wheel. It's a push fit. The bar that it's fixed to is a push fit, and it can come out the other side. If you tighten this too hard, put too much pressure on it, pick up your loco by the wheels, particularly on the more open ones such as a Flying Scotsman. If you pick your loco up and you push these in, then you can have an issue where you actually, where the conrod itself appears outside of this area here, pushes in, and then gets caught up amongst the brass contact, which then just chews it up. That is an issue other people have had. All you can really do there is send it back. You can have a go at trying to repair and tidy these up. To get one of mine going, I ended up cutting one of them off, just because it was such a mess. Again, that's how I found out about it, because this bar had gone in, chewed the thing up, and then I ended up, to get it working, I had to snip it off. But that really is yeah, that's okay. What else are we talking about? Right, wheel wobble. Now, wheel wobble is quite an easy fix. Okay, so you may have heard or read or seen that they have wheels that sort of do this. Now, that is literally a case of very gently straighten those things up. You could use, again, a pair of pliers to do that on. I'm not actually squeezing with the pliers, I'm just using them as a spacer to get them square, okay, to get them really back to square, because they are push fit on the axle. That's one of the issues. But the other problem you sometimes find is a wheel will actually slide backwards and forwards. And the first thing you need to look at is open the bottom of the actual loco with these screws here. Okay, so that brings the connecting plate up as well. You have to be very careful how you put that back in. Now, we need to remove that, don't we? To do this, right, so let's lift that up. This screw here. Take that off, move the logo back. Now, sometimes there should be, it's going to be on the other side of there, isn't it? Right, lifting this up. Lift that out of the way. Now you have these. Here's a prime example of what can happen. Now I have had locos turn up that have had this piece of these bushes sat out of place. I'm not sure if this shows it up or not. You can see those bushes out of place, but those bushes need to be sat as those ones are. And when they're off like this, the wheels can move backwards and forwards. They still spin round, but they wobble a hell of a lot like this. And on the straights, that's fine. In fact, actually, they operate okay, except that it looks awful. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to very carefully put these back in place. So we need to pick that up. Trying to do this to camera, it's ridiculous. Right, okay. Okay. And then we're going to put that gently back into there. Make sure that everything is sitting where it's supposed to sit. Okay. Yep, that's all good. And then we can put this wrong way round. Yep. Okay. Just have a little check of all of those contacts. Make sure that you're happy with the positioning of everything. Okay, and then we should have screw that goes in there. Where's the other one gone? Ah, cheeky little chappy. Again, nice and gentle. Don't want to over tighten these. Go back over those in a moment. I didn't tighten that one. I didn't undo that bit. Just check everything. Really go back over and a little tiny little part turn on those guys. Okay. There we go. Right, everything should be happy. We'll do now, once you've done something as intrusive as that, I would suggest that you put on your track, or your testing track, very slowly moving, just to make sure that everything's doing what it does before you put it on your main track and send it off flat chat. Right, one last thing to look at. Right, here's a project loco. And what I thought I'd show you is one of the other issues that people have been talking about with the A1, A4s is the grinding noise, and not being as quick as everything else, and just really sounding a little bit like a coffee grinder. Okay, now I don't know what the cause of it is, and neither do I know how to resolve the problem, except that on this loco, when I did have it, I undid these 3 screws as per figure 7 in the instructions. And this is a perfectly legitimate maintenance procedure. So if you do this, you're not going to get shot by Hornby. Okay. And that comes off. Now, all I did when I looked at this was I took a little look at the motor. I picked it up. I made sure that the worm screw was didn't have anything in it, and that it was running smooth, and that there was no oscillation or wobble. And then when I put it back into the motor, I just gave it a little bit of a wiggle to make sure that everything was sitting exactly as it was supposed to sit. I couldn't see anything else wrong with it. I was expecting to find a rough worm gear or a wobbly worm gear, and I couldn't find anything wrong at all. So I put the whole thing back, the whole shebang back together again, screwed the whole thing up, and lo and behold, it runs as smooth as everything else. So I wonder if it's just a simple case of some of them don't quite have the motor sat where they're supposed to. Again, that goes back to I don't know, the manufacturing process, wherever these things have been made. One presumes China or somewhere else in the Far East. But I'm only presuming. I don't know exactly where their factories are. It could even be India. I don't know. But it's something that you really need to be very careful of, because when they're grinding away like that, it can't be doing them any good. Oh, hello. Actually, joking aside, there's some cracking stuff in the summer edition. Some bits of it do feel a little bit like they were written in May or drafted in May, but at least it's here, and hopefully Hornby are back on track and we get these a little bit more often. Good stuff. Thank you, Hornby. Did you enjoy that? Hope that was of some use. If there's anything extra, anything I've missed, anything that's remotely confusing about it, please stick some comments below, and let's have a conversation about it. Okay. Don't forget, obviously, to like and subscribe, ring the little bell, poke Peachy in the face, and then I'm not quite sure what Jimmy will do, but there'll be a video here and a video here for you to have a little look at. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.